Welcome to Create by T. Who's ready for some Christmas DIYs? I started with this blank spare board that was scrap, and I used my Waverly chalk paint in Fern, and I also add a little bit of water to it so that it would have just a green stain across my board. After applying the Waverly Fern paint, I did take a paper towel and go over the board, wiping it down so that it would have the stained look. Next, I took a Christmas stencil that I purchased from Amazon, which I will link below, and I sectioned it out across the board for it to say Farm Fresh Christmas trees. Once my paint was dry, I took some sandpaper and I distressed over my paint that I stenciled on to give it more of a weathered farmhouse look. This is how my board looked after my paint was dry and I went over it with sandpaper. Next, I wrapped some twine around on the left side and hot glued it down, and on the right side I added a cinnamon stick, a little sprig of berries, and some greenery. And this is how it turned out. For my next project, I took this scrap piece of board that was red already, and I'm going to add this Santa face stencil to the front of it. I taped down my stencil, and then I'm going to apply some white acrylic paint. Once my paint was dry, I again took it outside and I took some sandpaper to distress it. Next, I added some twine to the left side of it again, securing it with hot glue. And then I felt like it needed just a little something more, so I took a white jingle bell and I hot glued it onto the end of his hat. I recently purchased these two chunky wood signs for $1.14 from my local Goodwill. I started out by taking them outside and spray painting them both white. Once the paint was dry, I brought them in and took a number stencil with some red Waverly chalk paint, and I painted the numbers 2 and 5 on them for Christmas, along with a stripe and some dots across the top. Once my paint was dry, I distressed my numbers again. And this is how they turned out. My last project, I took this scrap piece of wood that looked very rustic. I also took another one of my stencils from Amazon that said "Better Not Pout," and I put that across with my Waverly Crimson chalk paint. Once my paint was dry, I did distress my letters to make it look more rustic. And then finally, I added this red ticking stripe ribbon to the end with some hot glue. If you enjoy this sort of content, please consider subscribing and helping my channel to grow. You can also find me on these other social media platforms. Thanks for watching.